On a distant planet called Zorath 7, humans had finally reached the stars. After years of dreaming and planning, they had built their first colony far from Earth. The planet was rich with resources, its soil filled with minerals that could power Earth's cities for centuries. But Zorath 7 was not empty. High above the skies, an alien species known as the Vailith watched silently, their sleek ships gliding like shadows over the rocky terrain. They saw the humans as weak, clumsy creatures who barely deserved to breathe the same air as them. Dr. Alan Carter stood at the edge of a deep canyon, staring at the strange symbols carved into towering stone pillars scattered across the landscape. He adjusted his glasses and sighed. "This is incredible," he muttered under his breath. Behind him, Dr. Laura Bennett knelt by one of the monoliths, brushing away dirt with careful hands. Her dark hair was tied back in a loose ponytail, and her face showed a mix of curiosity and excitement. "What do you think these mean?" Alan asked, pointing at the markings. Laura tilted her head, studying the lines and curves. "I don't know yet, but they're old, older than anything we've seen before." She pulled out her tablet and snapped a few pictures. "Ryan needs to see this." Ryan Miller, the team's linguist, was already on his way. When he arrived, he crouched beside Laura, his sharp eyes scanning the symbols. "These aren't random scratches," he said after a moment. "This is a language, a very ancient one." The discovery thrilled the team. For weeks, they worked tirelessly, mapping the area and recording every detail. Each new symbol brought them closer to understanding what might have created these structures. It wasn't just about science. It felt like uncovering a secret meant only for them. But the Vailith were watching. From their hidden observation posts, they sneered at the humans' fascination with the ruins. To the Vailith, the monoliths were meaningless relics, remnants of a primitive past unworthy of attention. Their leader, Kalthar, dismissed the humans as foolish beings obsessed with things that no longer mattered. Still, something about the humans' persistence intrigued him. Why would such simple creatures care so much about rocks? One day, while exploring deeper into the canyon, Alan tripped over a loose rock. As he steadied himself, his hand brushed against a smooth surface embedded in the ground. Suddenly, there was a low hum, and part of the canyon wall shifted, revealing the hidden chamber. Inside, glowing images flickered to life, showing scenes of two different species working together. One looked human-like, while the other resembled the Vailith. Laura gasped. "Do you see this? This changes everything." Word spread quickly among the colonists. Some were excited, imagining the possibilities of learning from the past. Others grew nervous, wondering if the Vailith would react badly to their discovery. Alan knew they couldn't keep this secret forever. Sooner or later, they would need to confront the aliens. And when they did, Alan hoped the knowledge hidden in those stones would be enough to earn their respect. As night fell over Zorath 7, the team gathered around a campfire, sharing theories and dreams. None of them realized how much their lives were about to change, or how speaking the words carved into those ancient stones would alter the course of history. The next morning, the team gathered around the hidden chamber, their faces lit by the soft glow of the holographic projections inside. Laura traced her fingers along the edges of the glowing images, her mind racing. The scenes showed two intelligent species working side by side, planting crops, building structures, and even sharing meals. One group looked remarkably human, while the other bore a striking resemblance to the Vailith. "This is incredible," Ryan whispered, his voice filled with awe. "These aren't just random pictures. They're telling a story, a history." Alan nodded, his brow furrowed in thought. If these images are accurate, then the Vailith and this other species weren't always enemies. They worked together once. Laura's eyes widened. And if that's true, then maybe we can find common ground with them now. Maybe they've forgotten their own past. Ryan leaned closer to the holograms, studying the symbols floating below each scene. These markings, they're instructions or records. If I can translate them, we might learn more about how they lived, what they valued, and why their partnership ended. For days, the team pored over the data, piecing together fragments of the ancient language. Ryan spent hours cross-referencing the symbols with Earth's earliest known languages, searching for patterns. Slowly, a clearer picture began to emerge. The text spoke of a shared struggle against a harsh environment, of two species uniting to survive. It also hinted at a great divide, a falling out that led to the collapse of their alliance. As the team worked, tensions grew among the colonists. Some saw the discovery as an opportunity to bridge the gap between humans and the Valith. Others, like Daniel Harper, were skeptical. Daniel was a tall man with broad shoulders and a no-nonsense attitude. He had been one of the first engineers to arrive on Zoreth 7 and took pride in his work, but he didn't trust the aliens. What if they see this as a threat? Daniel argued during a heated meeting. We're poking around in their history, uncovering things they might not want us to know. What happens when they find out? Alan tried to calm him down. We're not doing anything wrong. These ruins belong to everyone. If we can use them to build trust, then we should. But Daniel wasn't convinced. Trust? You think they care about trust? Look at how they've treated us so far, like we're bugs under their boots. Despite the growing unease, Alan pushed forward. He believed the discovery could change everything. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the canyon, Ryan made a breakthrough. He rushed into the makeshift lab where Laura and Alan were reviewing notes. I found something, Ryan said, breathless. A phrase. It keeps repeating in the texts. It translates to the bond of creation. I think it refers to the partnership between the two species. Laura's eyes sparkled. That's huge. If we can show the Valith that we understand their history, maybe they'll see us differently. Alan nodded. It's worth a shot. But we need to be careful. This isn't just about science anymore. It's about diplomacy. The team agreed to prepare for contact with the Valith. Using drones equipped with translation software, they hoped to communicate peacefully. As they worked, none of them noticed the faint hum of Valith ships hovering high above, observing their every move. Back in their hidden base, the Valith debated what to do. Kalthar watched footage of the humans examining the monoliths, his sharp eyes narrowing. They're meddling in things they don't understand, he growled. But another Valith, Silura, spoke up. Maybe they're trying to understand us, she suggested softly. Isn't that what we would do? Kalthar hesitated. For the first time, doubt crept into his mind. Were the humans truly as primitive as he had believed? Or was there more to them than met the eye? As the days passed, the humans prepared for their first attempt at communication. They didn't know if the Valith would listen or attack. But one thing was certain. The words etched into those ancient stones held power, and they might just hold the key to humanity's survival on Zoreth 7. The day of the first contact arrived, and the air was thick with tension. Alan stood at the edge of the canyon, his heart pounding as he watched the drones hover in formation. Each drone carried a speaker system loaded with phrases Ryan had painstakingly translated from the ancient language. Laura adjusted her headset, her hands trembling slightly, while Ryan double-checked the translations one last time. Samantha Sam Collins, the team's pilot, leaned against her aircraft nearby, her arms crossed. She was calm on the surface, but her sharp eyes scanned the horizon, ready for anything. You sure about this, Alan? She asked, her voice steady. We're walking into the unknown. Alan nodded, though his stomach churned with nerves. We don't have a choice. If we want to survive here, we need to make peace with them. The team moved cautiously toward the designated meeting point, a flat stretch of land near the canyon where the monolith stood. As they approached, the Valith ships descended silently, their sleek forms casting long shadows over the ground. The aliens emerged, their tall, slender bodies covered in shimmering armor that reflected the sunlight. Their glowing eyes scanned the humans with a mix of curiosity and disdain. Kalthar stepped forward, his presence commanding. He raised a hand, and the other Valith stopped behind him. His voice boomed through a translator device. "Why have you come here?" Alan took a deep breath and stepped forward. "We mean no harm," he said slowly, his voice clear despite his nervousness. "We've discovered something important, something that belongs to your past." Kelthar tilted his head, his expression unreadable. "Our past is none of your concern, human." Before Alan could respond, Ryan spoke up. His voice shook slightly, but he pushed forward. "We've learned about the bond of creation," he said, using the phrase he had uncovered in the ancient texts, "about how your ancestors worked together with another species." The effect was immediate. The Valeth froze, their glowing eyes widening in shock. Kelthar stared at Ryan, his jaw tightening. "How do you know that phrase?" he demanded, his tone sharper now. Ryan swallowed hard but continued. "We found it in the ruins, the monoliths. They tell the story of your shared history." For a moment, there was silence. Then Silura, standing slightly behind Kelthar, stepped forward. Her voice was softer, more hesitant. "You understand our language." Laura nodded, stepping beside Ryan. "We've been studying it. We think it's important. For both of us." Kelthar's gaze shifted between the humans, his sharp features betraying a flicker of uncertainty. He turned to Silura, speaking in rapid clicks and hums that the humans couldn't understand. After a brief exchange, he turned back to the group. "You will explain yourselves further. But if this is a trick, there will be consequences." The Valeth leader gestured for his people to retreat, leaving only Silura behind to observe the humans. As the ships disappeared into the sky, the team let out a collective sigh of relief. "Well, that went better than expected," Sam muttered, breaking the tension with a small laugh. Ellen looked at Ryan and Laura, his expression serious. "This is just the beginning. They're listening, but we need to prove ourselves." Over the next few days, the team worked closely with Silura, sharing what they had learned from the monoliths. She listened intently, her curiosity growing with each new revelation. Slowly, a fragile connection began to form between her and Laura, who found common ground in their shared passion for discovery. But not everyone was pleased with the progress. Back at the colony, Daniel Harper voiced his disapproval loudly. "We're giving them too much information," he argued during a heated meeting. "What happens when they turn on us?" Alan tried to reassure him. "We're building trust. That's the only way forward." Daniel shook his head, unconvinced. "Trust doesn't stop weapons, Alan." Despite the doubts and fears, the team pressed on. They knew the path ahead would be difficult. But the ancient words etched into the stones had opened a door, one that could lead to peace or destruction. For now, all they could do was hope the Valeth would listen and see the humans not as enemies, but as partners in uncovering the truth of their shared past. As the days passed, the humans and Silura worked together to piece together more of the ancient language. The Valeth scientist was quiet at first, watching carefully as Laura and Ryan explained their findings. But slowly, she began to open up, asking questions and sharing bits of her own knowledge. It was clear that the Valeth had forgotten much of their history, leaving only fragments of stories passed down through generations. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Silura traced her fingers over one of the glowing holograms. Her voice was soft, but filled with emotion. "I never thought I'd see this," she admitted. "Our elders always said the bond of creation was a myth, a story to teach children about unity. But now, it's real." Laura smiled gently. "It's not just your story. It's ours too. Maybe we're not so different after all." Silura looked at her, her glowing eyes reflecting a mix of hope and doubt. "But my people don't think like that anymore. They see themselves as superior, above others." Ryan nodded. "That's why this matters. If we can show them the truth, maybe they'll change their minds." The team decided to organize a formal presentation for the Valeth leadership. Using the holograms and translated texts, they hoped to demonstrate the depth of their understanding and the importance of the shared history. Alan knew it was a risk, but he believed it was worth trying. On the day of the meeting, the humans gathered in a large clearing near the canyon. Kalthar arrived with a group of Valith leaders, their armor gleaming in the sunlight. The atmosphere was tense, and every movement felt deliberate. Alan stepped forward, holding up a tablet displaying the ancient symbols. "We've learned a lot from these ruins," he began, his voice steady despite the weight of the moment. "They tell the story of how your ancestors worked with another species, not as masters and servants, but as equals. Together, they built something greater than either could alone." Kalthar's expression remained unreadable, but some of the other Valith shifted uncomfortably. Sylra stood beside him, her presence offering silent support to the humans. Laura took over, pointing to the holograms. "These images show cooperation, two species helping each other survive. They faced challenges, yes, but they overcame them by working together." Ryan added, "The bond of creation wasn't just about survival. It was about trust, respect, and understanding. Those values are still important today, for all of us." For a long moment, there was silence. Then Kalthar spoke, his tone measured but firm. "You speak of things my people have buried for centuries. Why should we care about them now?" Alan met his gaze without flinching. "Because Zoreth 7 is dying. The soil is losing its nutrients. The air is growing thin. If we don't work together, none of us will survive here. Your ancestors knew this planet better than anyone. Their wisdom could help us restore it and save both our peoples." The Valith leaders exchanged glances, murmuring among themselves. Some seemed intrigued, while others looked skeptical or outright hostile. Finally, Kalthar turned back to the humans. "You ask us to trust you based on old stories and broken records. How do we know this isn't a trick?" Before Alan could respond, Sam stepped forward. "Because we're willing to take the same risk. We're here, putting ourselves in your hands, hoping you'll listen. Isn't that worth something?" Her words hung in the air, cutting through the tension. Sylra glanced at Kalthar, her expression hopeful. After a long pause, he finally nodded. "Very well. We will consider what you've shown us. But remember, one wrong move, and this ends." As the Valith departed, the team let out a collective breath. They had taken a step forward, but the road ahead was far from clear. Back at the colony, Daniel Harper voiced his frustration. "We're walking a dangerous line," he warned. "What happens if they decide we're too much of a threat?" Alan didn't have an answer. All he knew was that the ancient words had opened a door, one that could lead to peace or disaster. For now, all they could do was wait and hope the Valith would choose understanding over fear. The days following the meeting with the Valith were tense. The humans waited anxiously for a response from Kalthar and his council, unsure if their efforts had made any difference. Back at the colony, opinions were divided. Some colonists felt hopeful, inspired by the possibility of working alongside the Valith to restore Zoreth 7. Others, like Daniel Harper, were more skeptical. "This is a mistake," Daniel said during one of the evening gatherings. His voice carried across the room as he paced back and forth. "They're dangerous. You saw how they reacted when we first arrived. They don't care about us. They never will." Alan stood near the window, staring out at the barren landscape. He turned to face the group, his tone calm but firm. "We can't keep living in fear. If we want to survive here, we need to find a way to coexist. The monoliths showed us that it's possible." Daniel shook his head, his jaw tight. "And what happens if they turn on us? What happens when they realize we're not as useful as they thought?" Laura stepped in, her voice steady. "We're not giving them a reason to turn on us. We're showing them that we're willing to work together, for everyone's benefit." Despite the arguments, preparations continued. The team worked tirelessly to refine their translations and gather more evidence from the ruins. Sylra visited often, her presence helping to ease some of the tension. She was curious, asking questions about Earth and sharing bits of Valith culture in return. A bond began to form between her and Laura, built on mutual respect and a shared desire for understanding. But not everyone at the colony trusted the Valeth or the plan. Late one night, a small group of colonists led by Daniel decided to take matters into their own hands. They sabotaged one of the drones used to communicate with the Valeth, planting false data that made it appear as though the humans were planning an attack. When the Valeth intercepted the corrupted message, chaos erupted. Ships descended quickly, surrounding the colony with an overwhelming show of force. Calthar's voice crackled through the translator device, cold and furious. "You lied to us. You planned this betrayal all along." Alan rushed outside, his hands raised in surrender. "No, this isn't what it looks like. Someone tampered with our equipment. We didn't send that message." Calthar's glowing eyes narrowed. "How do we know you're telling the truth?" Before Alan could respond, Sam stepped forward. Her voice was calm but resolute. "Because I'm willing to stay with you, as proof that we're not your enemy." The offer stunned everyone, including the Valeth. For a moment, there was silence. Then Calthar tilted his head, considering her words. Finally, he nodded. "Very well, she stays. But if this is another trick—" "It's not," Sam interrupted, her gaze unwavering. "I trust you to see the truth." As Sam climbed aboard one of the Valeth ships, the rest of the team watched helplessly. Alan clenched his fists, anger boiling inside him, not at Sam, but at those who had betrayed their mission. When the ships disappeared into the sky, he turned to the group, his voice sharp. "Who did this?" Daniel hesitated, guilt flickering across his face. "It was me," he admitted finally. "I thought I was protecting us." "You've done the opposite," Alan snapped. "Now we have to fix this, before it's too late." Over the next few days, the team worked frantically to uncover the sabotage and prove their innocence. Silura, moved by Sam's bravery, spoke up in their defense during a heated debate among the Valeth leadership. Slowly, cracks began to form in the wall of distrust. Sam, meanwhile, found herself observing the Valeth closely. Though wary at first, they treated her with cautious respect. Through conversations with Silura, she learned more about their fears and doubts, and began to see glimpses of hope. Back at the colony, Alan and his team prepared to present irrefutable evidence of the sabotage. They knew it was their last chance to salvage the fragile peace they had worked so hard to build. The ancient words etched into the stones had opened a door, but now it was up to them to ensure it stayed open. The humans worked day and night to gather proof of the sabotage. Alan led the effort, his determination unwavering despite the weight of the situation. With Laura's help, they traced the false data back to Daniel's terminal, uncovering logs that clearly showed his tampering. It was a breakthrough, but it wasn't enough. They needed to present the evidence in a way the Valeth would understand and accept. Ryan suggested using the ancient language to frame their explanation. "If we can show them how this betrayal goes against the bond of creation, the values their ancestors believed in, they might listen," he said. Laura nodded. "It's worth a try. Silura has been helping us bridge the gap. Maybe she can translate our message into something they'll trust." Meanwhile, aboard the Valeth ship, Sam observed their routines and customs, learning as much as she could. She noticed how Calthar often hesitated before making decisions, as if torn between his duty and his doubts. Silura visited her frequently, bringing updates from the colony and sharing her own thoughts. "You're brave to stay here," Silura said one evening, her glowing eyes soft with admiration. "Not many humans would risk themselves like this." Sam shrugged, though her heart raced at the compliment. "I'm not doing it for me. I'm doing it because I believe we can fix this, together." Silura smiled faintly. "You remind me of the stories about the bond of creation. Maybe there's still hope for both our peoples." Back at the colony, the team prepared their final presentation. Using holograms and translated texts, they highlighted the sabotage and explained its origins. Ryan carefully crafted phrases in the ancient language, emphasizing themes of unity and trust. When they were ready, Alan sent a message to Calthar, requesting another meeting. The Valeth arrived cautiously, their ships casting long shadows over the canyon. Kelthar stepped forward, his expression guarded. Beside him stood Silura, who gave a small nod to the humans, a silent sign of support. Alan took a deep breath and began. "We've uncovered the truth about the false message," he said, projecting his voice so everyone could hear. "It was planted by one of our own, someone who acted out of fear, not out of loyalty to our mission." He gestured to the hologram displaying the evidence. "This person thought they were protecting us, but they only made things worse. We came here to build trust, not destroy it." Ryan stepped forward next, speaking slowly in the ancient tongue. His words echoed across the clearing, capturing the attention of the Valeth. He spoke of the bond of creation, of how their ancestors had overcome division to work together. "Your history shows us what's possible," he concluded. "Let us honor that legacy by choosing understanding over fear." For a long moment, there was silence. Then Kelthar turned to Silura, his sharp features softening slightly. "What do you think?" he asked quietly. Silura met his gaze. "I think they're telling the truth. And I think we owe it to our ancestors, and to ourselves, to give them a chance." Kelthar sighed deeply, his shoulders relaxing. He turned back to the humans. "Very well. We will forgive this betrayal, for now. But know this, if your actions continue to harm us, there will be no second chances." With that, he ordered Sam to be released. As she reunited with her team, relief washed over everyone. The fragile peace had been saved, but it was clear that trust would take time to grow. Over the following weeks, joint projects began between humans and Valeth. Together, they studied the monoliths, uncovering more secrets about Zoreth 7's ecosystem. Slowly, friendships formed, bridging the gap between the two species. Though challenges remained, the bond of creation became a guiding light, a reminder that cooperation was stronger than division. Months passed, and the partnership between humans and Valeth grew stronger. Working side by side, they uncovered ancient techniques for revitalizing Zoreth 7's soil and atmosphere. The monoliths revealed methods of sustainable farming and water purification that had been used by their ancestors. Slowly but surely, the planet began to heal. Green shoots emerged from once barren fields, and the air felt fresher with each passing day. Laura and Silura became close friends, spending hours discussing their findings and sharing stories about their worlds. "We're not so different, you know," Laura said one evening as they sat near a newly planted field. "Both our peoples want the same thing, to survive, to thrive." Silura nodded, her glowing eyes reflecting the setting sun. "And now we're learning how to do it together. My people are starting to see that your arrival wasn't a threat, it was an opportunity." The changes weren't just happening on Zoreth 7. Back on Earth, news of the Alliance spread, sparking debates and inspiring hope. Some saw the collaboration as proof that humanity could rise above its flaws, while others remained cautious, warning of the risks of trusting alien species. But Alan knew the truth. Progress wasn't easy, but it was worth fighting for. Kelthar also faced challenges among his own people. Not everyone agreed with his decision to work with the humans. A faction of Valeth, led by a commander named Vorthan, believed their species should remain isolated and self-reliant. "We don't need them," Vorthan argued during a heated council meeting. "They'll only hold us back." Kelthar stood firm, his voice steady. "Our ancestors chose cooperation because it made them stronger. Are we really willing to throw away their wisdom?" Despite the resistance, Kelthar's leadership held. More Valeth began to embrace the partnership, seeing firsthand the benefits of working with the humans. Together, they built systems to restore the planet's resources, blending Valeth technology with human ingenuity. One day, as the first crops were harvested, the colony gathered to celebrate. The Valeth joined them, their presence a sign of unity. Kelthar addressed the crowd, his tone softer than usual. "Today marks a new beginning, not just for Zoreth 7, but for both our peoples. We have learned much from each other, and there is still more to discover." Ellen stepped forward, smiling warmly. This planet has given us a second chance, a chance to prove that differences don't have to divide us. Let's keep building on what we've started. As the celebration continued, Laura looked around at the faces of her team, the colonists and the Valeth. She felt a deep sense of pride, not just in what they had accomplished, but in how far they had come. The journey hadn't been easy, but every step had brought them closer to understanding. The monoliths, once silent witnesses to history, now stood as symbols of hope. They reminded everyone of the bond of creation, the idea that even the most unlikely partnerships could lead to greatness. For the first time in years, the future felt bright. In the months that followed, humans and Valeth ventured beyond Zorath 7, exploring nearby planets and uncovering more traces of their shared past. Each discovery strengthened their alliance, proving that cooperation could overcome even the deepest divides. As the stars shone brightly above, Hallen gazed into the night sky, his heart full of gratitude. He thought about the words etched into the ancient stones, the language that had bridged two worlds. It wasn't just a relic of the past. It was a promise for the future. Together, humans and Valeth had proven that understanding and trust could light the way forward, no matter how dark the path might seem.